Hello friends, in this video I am going to talk about the one of the important act, that is Government of India Act 1919. Now this act is also called by the name of Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. Why this is called by the name of Montagu-Chelmsford Reform? Because during that period, who was the Secretary of State for India? It was Mr. Montagu. And who was the Viceroy, or before the Viceroy, what was the name of the post? It was Governor General of India. So who was the Viceroy? Viceroy was nothing but Chelmsford. So that's why this is also called by the name of Montagu-Chelmsford Reform. Now Montagu Sahab and Chelmsford both are talking about a responsible government. Now they told that it is a time to introduce a responsible government. Now what is responsible government? Responsible government means it is a self-government that will be elected by the peoples. So what is government? Government for the people, of the people, by the people. So this reform is basically talking about the responsible government. Now before discussing this Government of India Act 1919, let us discuss some event which happens before that. You know very well, in 19 what happened? World War I start, and when it was over in 1918, it was ended. Now before that, the Indians have some demands, and they told to the British government, once the World War I is over, these are our demands, you have to accept our demands. What are these demands? Let us discuss. Now you know very well, there are two big political party which comes into the picture. One is nothing but Indian National Congress, which was formed in 1885, and the second one was Muslim League, which was formed in 1906. Now what happens? The Muslim peoples are having their own political party known as the Muslim League, and the other peoples are having their own party, that is the Indian National Congress. Now what is the advantage of this? Now they are getting a single platform, that all the politicians can come on a single platform and they can discuss. So there is a joint session happens in 1916, in which both party, Indian National Congress and Muslim League, they come together on a single platform and they demand something. And what are these demands? This demand is called by the name of Lucknow Pact. Fine. So these are the demands. Let me first read for you. The Lucknow Pact was an agreement. The Lucknow Pact was an agreement reached between the Indian National Congress, and the Muslim League at a joint session of both the parties held in Lucknow in December 1916. Though the pact, the two parties agreed to allow representative. Now what are their demands? They are having so many demands. Let us discuss all the demands one by one. So they agreed to allow the representation, to religious minorities in provincial legislature. Now you know very well, at central legislature there is Viceroy and his executive council. Now there is no chance that Viceroy will be Indian. No, Viceroy will be a British person or European. Now at the provincial level we can make a change. So at a provincial level, what is the change? They want representation of religious minorities. So this is the one demand. There are so many demands. Let us discuss one by one. But before that, if you remember, I teach you in 1909 Act. In India, who is going to make a law? It is the Viceroy and his executive council. Now previously, out of this 6 members, one member was Indian. According to 1909 Indian Council Act. Now what happens? According to this Government of India Act 1919 or Montagu-Chelmsford Reform, because they were talking about a responsible government. Now what is the big change? Previously there was one Indian in the executive council. Now there are 3 Indian. In the executive council of the Viceroy. This is the major change. Now what is the another demand of Pune Pact? Another demand of Indian National Congress and Muslim League is that there is a need of increase in the number of the additional members. So additional member, they propose additional member must be at least 150, and out of this 150, 75 will be Indian, and out of this 75, 25 must be Muslim. So the long story short is that they are asking about 50% Indian, and out of this 1/3 will be the Muslim. So this is the another demand of Lucknow Pact 1916. Now let us see what are the changes happen at the central legislature, and then I will back to the Lucknow Pact. Now at the central legislature, bicameralism introduced. Now what is the meaning of bicameralism? Now if I break so in two part, it will be bicamera. What is the meaning of bicamera? Bicamera means two chamber. Bicamera means two chamber. So one is the lower house and another is the upper house. So lower house is called by the name of Legislative Assembly, and upper house is called by the name of Council of State. How many members are in the lower house? 145. And how many members are in the upper house? 60. Remember, this 145, out of this 145, some member will come from the election and some members will come from the nomination. Fine. Same here. In upper house, some member will come from the election and some member will come from the nomination. Fine. Now if you see what is the demand of Indian National Congress and Muslim League, they are asking 150 additional member. But according to this report, they are giving 145 plus 60, means they are giving more than that, 205. And in this 205, if you subtract the European members, maximum peoples were Indian. Means if you say this is this act is going in favor, slowly all these acts are going in favor of the Indians. Fine. And the another demand was that 1/3 will be Muslim. Yes, 1/3 is also Muslim. Fine. So all demand of Lucknow Pact, almost all demand of Lucknow Pact was accepted. Now what will happen at the provincial legislature? Let us talk about. Now at the provincial legislature, the concept of diarchy is introduced. Sir, what is the meaning of diarchy? Diarchy means dual government. Now dual government means is the central legislature is also working at the provincial level? Let us discuss whether the central legislature is interfering in making law at the provincial level or not. Let us discuss this in detail. Previously, the main problem is that the subjects are not defined. On which subject the central legislature can make a law, and on which subject the provincial legislature can make a law. Now what happens? First time, according to this Government of India Act 1919, subjects were defined. So there are 47 subjects of central matters and 50 subjects of the provincial matters. Means in this only the central legislature can make a law. Sir, what about this provincial subjects? Now these 50 subjects are divided in two parts. One is called by the name of transferred subjects. One is called by the name of transferred subjects. Reserved subjects, called by the name of reserved subjects. Now it is divided in two subjects. One is transferred subject and one is a reserved subject. Now because we are talking at a provincial legislature, so here the main role is of governor. So governor is also here and governor is also here. As the name suggests, reserved subject. What is the meaning of reserved subject? Who is going to make a law? It is the governor and his executive council. Governor and his executive council is going to make a law. And what about the transfer subject? In transfer subjects, governor plus Indian minister, governor plus Indian minister is going to make a law. So this is the main change, my dear friend. So a big change happens at the central legislature and a big change happens at the provincial legislature. Now I have discussed this Government of India Act 1919 in detail. Now, along with this, there is another demand of Indian National Congress and the Muslim League. And what was the demand? Now, you know very well, in India, the topmost post is of Viceroy. Fine. And the another post is of a Secretary General of India. Now, who is going to make a law in India? It is the Viceroy and his Executive Council. And Viceroy is staying in India. But there is another person who is known as the Secretary General of India. He is not staying in India. He is staying in the Britain. For example, before the Secretary General of India, there were Court of Director, and Court of Director, they were sitting in the Britain. Now, this Secretary General of India, this is nothing but a cabinet minister. Now, what is the main problem? The main problem was that this Secretary General of India is getting a salary from the Indian fund. This is the main problem. In Pune Pact, the another demand was that because this Secretary General of India is staying in Britain, not staying in India, so why he is getting salary from the Indian fund? So this is another demand. British government said, do not worry, this Secretary General of India is also work as a agency or also work as a embassy. In 2024, you know about what is embassy. So same work is done by the Secretary General of India. So British government said, okay, you have a problem, do not worry. We are going to create another post, and that post is called by the name of High Commissioner. Now this High Commissioner is working as a ambassador, and he is getting a salary from the Indian fund. So the long story short is that the Indian Government of India Act 1919 is a good act because now the numbers in the Executive Council has been increased from 1 to 3, and election happens in 1920, and maximum peoples are Indian in the, whether it is a nominated or the elected. Fine. So I hope this Government of India Act 1919 is clear. Thank you so much.